If the government is saying they're not corrupt, then prove it to Amos J. Miller, Israel, by creating a talent search. And then, thank you. Thank you. And once that is done, it would give Bahamians an opportunity to showcase their individual talent. I thank Steve, the hard copy, between 5 and 7, the #1 show. The Bahamas is in a serious crisis. The next generation's future is at stake. It is very important that I make this statement. I speak directly to the United Nations Security Council and to the United Nations with the greatest respect. And I say on behalf of myself, an individual, and according to the Universal Declaration, the fundamental rights and freedoms of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights document established 9th of December 1948. Around that time, between 1948 to 2013, the question by this young Bahamian, a royal seed, is asking, what went wrong? Because the people in this part of the West is asking for justice. Now, that's because the natural resources of our country are being mismanaged and mishandled by both parties that celebrated victory in respect to leading this nation and its people. The national debt in this country, for a small country such as ours, is about to go so high it could cause our dollars be devalued. And they wish for me to debate a corruption practice in NIB. NIB is the single largest lender to the Bahamian people. There is no bank that lends more money than National Insurance. Now, I know by now, after the last government was voted out, I'm sure, I don't watch much television. I catch it on the news every now and again. I make it happen. But I tell you, I'm aware of what's happening at all times. I'm on the ground. I was hungry the 7th of May, 2012, when I went to vote between the hours of 5 and 12. One year and 1 day later, I'm still hungry. I'm hungry for an opportunity now to showcase my individual self with the view of showcasing the talent that is in the Bahamas at the end that will be able to say to the world, this is what you're missing, because these corrupt officials felt as though the average Bahamian does not deserve the right to benefit from the sale of our country and our natural resources. I say to the governments of the world, it is egregious. It is a blatant, absolute, an egregious aggression by foreign entities allowing our government to get away with breaking international laws. The average Bahamian is broke. So if they have a legal matter, how will they defend it if they cannot pay for it? The lawyers in this country, all as one. I sent a strong message to the United Nations Security Council, and I speak for myself and I speak for my brothers in the prisons around the world, but specifically for the prisons, the prison in the Bahamas. Now, the prison in the Bahamas carries the name of Her Majesty, reigning sovereign over the kingdom of the Bahamas before my declaration. May the Queen explain what entitlement, what gives her the right to call herself a queen, and then I'll say what gives me the right to call myself a Bahamian-born king. But granted me by God Yahweh's holy presence and spirit through the powers and the anointed holy presence of the Yeshua, that we call in the West our Jesus, spirit of our Jesus, now in spiritual form, but reincarnated in those men and women in the Bahamas, from the Bahamas to Africa, and from Africa to Europe, and from Europe back to the West. I say to the powers of this world, there are talent in the Bahamas, natural resources of our country that the people have not benefited from. Only a select few, handpicked by 2 prime ministers in the last 21 years. And I would put the record of Sir Lyndon's generation against their record any day. The crew then, and how the country grew in that 25 in respect to this, even though there is much atrocities that took place to Bahamians, at the end, God is glorified. I'm not here to get into these men affairs. I'm not a politician. I have no desire to be a politician. But my desire is for my people to know, according to the Bahamian history and according to history in general, if a man is financially challenged, but he have a rich history that he can be encouraged to speak and helped by the government, because these things takes funds. The government cannot find funds to help him or them with their projects, but the government can find $15 million to weed grass that within 3 months' time grew back. They're debating in NIB corruption of the chairman and a whole bunch of corruption in the National Insurance Board. Okay? And the truth of the matter, the former Prime Minister quit. He quit before anyone can ask him anything about anything in the last 5 years. In this case, the last 6 years now, it would have been, and 6 days. He would have been running this country. My thing is, at the end of the day, how is it our country can be in a close to $7 billion and so on dollars debt? No prime minister is talking about the debt. No prime minister is talking about the foreign reserves. No prime minister in the last in the last 6 years found any answer in respect to how they're going to get jobs for Bahamians. The sitting prime minister in opposition claimed he needed about 50,000 jobs. The minister today said they need about 30. I'm saying he's adding 30 onto the 50. That makes it 80,000 jobs. And I'm saying, Mr. Christie, in respect to the mortgage relief program and plan and policies, that was a failure. That was a big failure. And in most cases, almost 4,000 people will say it was a great big trick. Now, and for these reasons, and much more, especially the 2% reclaim of majority rule shares in BTC, that was a big trick. When you look at Bahama and how many workers, foreign workers from China, is building the hotel, and not very few Bahamians are there, and now it is being circulated that a whole lot of Haitians and Jamaicans are ending up on the job. Why? I'm asking the United Nations Security Council and the United Nations in general. I'm asking the Sovereign Grand Commander of the Supreme Council, what did I do to you? I speak for my brothers in prison. What did we do to you? However, it was your wicked policies towards the black man that made it very difficult for him to survive. You took his natural resources by way of using corrupt method of and ways and means to corrupt our politicians, scare them out. I don't know what it is, scare tactics, what it was. But whatever it was, 2 prime ministers have led the country in 21 years. And in 21 years, the majority of the people is broke, including the country. The streets are overrun by illegal immigrants, from the majority of which is from Haiti, and a few moving around from Jamaica and other places of the Caribbean, majority of which is from Haiti. And they're riding around on bicycles with their working utensils, many of which is cutlasses. It is reported by the Minister of Immigration and Foreign Affairs, but acting as Minister of Immigration in this Perry Christie 2013 cabinet, that about 30 to 40,000 documented Haitians are in our country. Our country have been very kind to every nation on the planet in one way or the other. Now I'm saying as a sovereign in this country, according to the records of my father's generation, connected to his father's generation, that is connected to his father's generation, and goes back to the dawn of time, and it goes back so far, questions that I can ask that only the Queen and the royal family and the British Parliament can answer, and the President of America or its foreign affairs ministers. We as black people in the kingdom of the Bahamas, we claim we are Christians, but yet we are living the life of infidelity. Infidelity is rocking the kingdom of the Bahamas, from politics to the church to the civic to the secular seclorum. And at the end of the day, Yahweh, the spirit of his son, the Yeshua, will not be mocked. I'm not better than you. You're not better than me. I might be dark and you might be lighter in color, but check the blood, all red. Would you like for someone to hang your children from a tree, or nail your family on a cross and then burn them in a fire? I'm asking the United Nations Security Council and the United Nations leaders. I'm asking the Sovereign Grand Commander of the Supreme Council of this world, of America, in America. You're a male, sir. Now, I offer justice in my right hand, or I offer judgment in my left. I believe in the resurrection of Yahweh's sons and daughters' spiritual body. I believe in the resurrection of the Bahamas' spiritual connection back to our homeland, our forefathers. And that means going back to your parents and their roots. That means studying your ancestry, studying your history as individuals now, because the leaders are saying the nation of the Bahamas is broke. What they're not saying is they mismanage or billions of our funds. Now, if there is a poll taken starting from right now, how many Bahamians can say they were given something tangible from their political party, okay, that would have sustained their life now, okay, and or from the government? In most cases, a lot of people was disappointed who had these people on the grounds. They didn't get a thank you card. You know, no, not even a person was hired to say, make a call to these names. The names that they used to call on time to help support them. I say I stand, and in the spirit realm, and as a warrior on the wall, I take my place on the ramparts in the Lord's kingdom. And as Yahweh, my Heavenly Father, sits in Zion, I say to his sons and to his daughters, I ain't no pastor. I'm a royal seed. I ain't your enemy. I'm your brother. And that's whether you're black or whether you're white. And by the way, let me reiterate, this is not a racist conversation. I believe in the resurrection of Christ. I believe in the CDR of Christ. Christ, death, and his resurrection. Okay? That's what I believe in Christ's death and his resurrection. But before, you can come to the resurrection, there was a debt. I like to study how he died. I like to study who was Christ. Who Christ must be to me, according to Scripture. Christ must be to me the I am, whatever I need him to be. And I need him to be Yahweh and the Spirit of the Yeshua, the God of the air that I need to breathe, the God of the sun that keeps me beautiful and healthy and strong. Once there's an opportunity for me and my fellow brothers to go there and work, whether it's by talent search or job placement, registration of skill, a skill bank, registration bank. All I know, one company and the removal, illegal removal of the Aragonite in our country is egregious. I speak to the sovereign Grand Commander of the Supreme Council and directly to the United Nations now and to the Bahamas government. I'm instructed by the Spirit of Yahweh to say these things. I'm not here to call for no one to be killed. I'm here to call for the removal of the sitting Prime Minister of our country. Because as long as he sit in that seat and have no desire to talk to a young man like Amos, who was used in the 2007 general election. The Progressive Liberal Party lost that election. My vehicle, my truck, was the lead truck, one of the trucks used leading up to that election. The arsenal of the Free National Movement, the crushing blow of the former Prime Minister, left my house devastated at the end of his 15 years and 5 days. The bad Pharaoh rule. My light turned off for the first time. Property I'm trying to sell for $850,000. That's the market value. Who in government can afford to purchase it? So I had to create my talent. I thank then the First Caribbean Bank, even though it's unfortunate with certain situations surrounding NIB and the chairman, but I see why they fired him. However, I'd like to say thank you to the First Caribbean Bank. First Caribbean International Bank helped me. Now on the 31st of this month, I must have some things in my hand to assure the First Caribbean International Bank that one, I am the seed of a great force in this universe, and he has given me great talent. And had they invested in people like me instead of some people that they invested in, and I'm talking about in the last 3 years, within the last 3 years, and from this day forward, once they see the wisdom, the knowledge, and the inspired understanding of the matters. So I say to the world, there's much talent in the Bahamas. If the sitting Prime Minister wished to say to the Bahamian people, okay, in the first year we were targeting a specific job. In the second year, this is what we are prepared to try and accomplish on behalf of the people in terms of getting money into their pockets. I'm here to say, if the Prime Minister were to suggest to the Bahamas, as quick as they are suggesting, they don't have the resources to do certain things that they promise on behalf of the Bahamian people. You were quick to say that to us because you know we love you and we were understanding of you leading up to the election, and we were in great hopes. This then, in my humble opinion, would be also a smart thing to do. Then you would want to invest in the individuals according to the preamble of your Constitution, providing they can show self-discipline in the particular industry, providing they can show within that same framework loyalty, unity, and have a strong, spiritual part and foundation, spiritual values, and absolutely someone who does not promote violence. But however, if someone is taking your food and you have children to feed, I need any justice to tell the brothers in the Bahamas, what do you expect for him to do? You take his food and give it to dogs. I commend the Minister of Immigration, Mr. Mitchell, Fred Mitchell. Absolutely agree with him and disagree with anyone who tried to distract him. That's a demonic force, and the kind of force I am a hatchet against. I'm a hatchet against corruption. I'm a hatchet against discrimination. And I trust and hope any young Bahamian, young like myself, and then the younger ones were taken over now. I'm 43 this year, so I'm talking about those ones what are absolutely taken over, or in this case have taken over. Now I'm one of those persons of the opinion and with the view that if you give a man an opportunity in the Bahamas to be a man according to the natural resources that we have, the natural resources that is left, if we do not, as individuals and then as a nation, recognize how rich the nation is and why everyone, we are like the center, like a star, and the world is coming to the center, and we like that center because we need what we have, what they need, and they have what we need. It's like God is saying, they need you, you're very important. Use them as they need you. So as they need you, you need them. Network. That's how it's supposed to be. You call it like a 50-50 thing, you know? Yeah. And maybe like a 51-49 thing in modern time, which would represent a 1% that is always put away in reserve for the generation unborn. Any country that needs something from another country, according to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, according to the preamble of the Bahamian Constitution, according to chapter 1 and chapter 2 of the Bahamian Constitution, or at least chapter 1, chapter 2 and chapter 3, they are fundamental foundations and principles that cannot be changed, especially by questionable leaders. Now, if the leaders of the nation is saying the country cannot hire, government cannot hire anyone out of the 60,000, 50,000 that were there before Mr. Christie, he hired nobody in 1 year. So we have to assume, and many people were laid off, so we have to assume that number is now at least 60 or so thousand or more, or hopefully less. The bottom line is, this is the time, I want to say this to the people, this is the time for you to find your individual you, that talent that is individually, uniquely you. That's why it happened. Had Mr. Ingram, listen to me, watch this. I'm going to contradict myself. I want to say thank you to Mr. Ingram for succeeding in respect to your foreign national plan. You succeeded in giving everything away to these people. I agree. Mr. Christie, since you won, you have totally won my heart in respect to being right in respect to, and the people, as it relates to what the people were saying, that you and Mr. Ingram is the same. You have proven that. You have carried on the very same policies that you knew were the major ones that caused the people vote for you. For example, the mortgage relief the people needed because of bad policies you and Mr. Christie, you and Mr. Ingram would have made over the years. One, that's your mortgage. You have your illegal immigration problem that in 21 years you men have never really tackled. And the men in both of y'all side of the government, when they really tried to do something, like Mr. McCartney, and I credit him for that, on the F&M side, and on the PLP side, Mr. Gibson. And now, but you don't even hear nothing but who there now, because, well, sorry, I take that back. Now you have the Minister of Immigration, who's now, in my view, should be commended for trying to, in 1 year time, give Bahamians an opportunity to take these jobs. The truth of the matter, they're not taking the jobs because they have school fees, they have rent. They live here. They have to rent the apartment. In most cases, the majority of people don't have a home. They rent. Even the majority of the people would have government homes. As cheap as the mortgage is for those government homes, it's still heavy to pay in a time when you lost your job. In a time when governments are giving major foreign direct investments to foreigners. And after they then promised the Bahamian people to give them free and clear title to generation property and give them an opportunity to go back to these islands and create a better life for themselves by giving them free and clear title to land that they can use to banks and furthermore, what needs to be moved out of this country, out of the way of the Bahamian individual, is the right. Mr. Christie, you said that a Bahamian have the right to leave the Bahamas and then could get a casino license. You see, yet you turn around and give a foreigner from Africa, a company that basically came here from Africa, was rejected by the Progressive Liberal Party under Sir Lyndon because of the apartheid situation, and until that was cleared up, Sir Lyndon took a strong position and a strong view. You freed it up when you won. That's fine. That company helped a whole lot of people, including myself. Kudos to them. Yet, they did everything in their power to... Well, I'll digress from that. Bahama is going to take care of certain matters. So you have now you come then to the crime situation. The crime situation mostly is in a bad state because of the unemployment. Unemployment because of the bad foreign direct investment, bad policies of the government in respect to foreign direct investment. Second, and another thing, Mr. Prime Minister, as I speak to the Sovereign Grand Commander of the Supreme Council and the United Nations Security Council and the United Nations leaders, heads of government, with the greatest respect, I was not taught by your system to be smart. And many of your people throughout and around your country, you have done the same thing. So you know of which level I speak. It is a beautiful thing when the system fixes it where the average black Bahamian would be broke today without a talent. And the talent they have, they won't. Mr. Prime Minister, I digress again. This is how you can help a talent search. And you will do that by bringing your cameras, setting up your cameras in one of those beautiful hotels like Atlantis or the Bahamas as they increase. And you make it a yearly thing. And it's like a yearly thing, starting like a little route, like a little spa, leading up to a greater plan that you could create as you demit office. Okay, sir? That you were given 5 years by the people, mandated by the people, and you got 5 years to get it right. One and gone. Now, in the next 4 years, Amos can be your friend, or Amos can be, your political friend now, or your political enemy. Either which way, you would not be leader of that party if it was not for me on your side. This voice was the strongest voice on the radio for you and your house. Consequently, your family, your children will benefit and have benefited since you reigned now for 1 year and a day. Every government on the planet knows Amos is a serious young man. I have made history. They know in which areas. So I say to the Minister of Labor in my country, and I say also to the Minister of Works in my country. Okay? Minister of Labor, Minister Shane Gibson, and to the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Works, Mr. Philip Davis. You men have collective responsibility. Be careful, because I don't like none of y'all men more than I love myself and my children. We represent the Bahamian people. And I hope any Bahamian who hear this documentary type statement will recognize they have under the Bahamian Constitution the very same privileges, freedom to express ourselves, of conscience, assembly, and speech. We now need to do these things on camera and in a intellectual, copyrighted way that we can benefit. And when this title search is completed, Bahamian will bring all of their talent. It's a talent search. You bring your talent, you exhibit it, you have 2 minutes to show that talent. And the resources of the country that is now in the hands of foreign direct invested companies doing business in this country now can have something good to invest in. Because there's a lot of companies outside of our country who would like to do business here with good leadership, good government. You see, when we look at the degradation of our environment, it is an absolute disgrace. Any government who cannot pick up the garbage of their people should not be in office. Former, and may her soul and spirit rest in peace, Margaret Thatcher, former Prime Minister of Great Britain, made those comments, quote unquote. I understand it. Paraphrase it a little bit. Okay? And so, it is not right for the natural resources in this level and on this volume to be in the hands of foreigner and my country in a mess. And the majority of people would like me and who understand what I'm saying, because y'all also put me there. And I'll do a tape. How much time they put me there in the last 2 years between prison, locking me up in that prison because of my strong views. This is under the F&M. As they were heading out of office, they made sure to lock me up, and that's the, I guess, since they could do it, they did it. Okay, Mr. Ingram, you know, and some police officers on the force, and now you're picking up randomly Bahamian men. I see why crime got to be down, because you're going around just randomly picking up the Bahamian people and locking them up. And the Bahamian mothers, them so fed up with some of us coming home every day and cannot say, I found a job. What did y'all do to me and my people? If the majority of men is in the prison, that is why the majority of Haitians are now sleeping with the Bahamian men. Wives and girlfriends, sleeping with our girlfriends. I'm one. My ex-wife left me for an adulterous affair with one of the Haitians. I do not wish to call his name ever in my mouth again until the appointed time. Even though it tarries, I shall wait, because it will come to pass. So the system of this world better understand. I'm a straightforward young man, 3 children. I would like to see what it feels like for the Bahamas to be debt free. The reason why none of the prime ministers, no prime minister, we had 3, ever introduced income tax. Income tax draw emphasis on those who would make the majority of the money. Income tax then will cause and force the government of the Bahamas, instead of locking up people in prison, creating jobs now. And since they, in this case, cannot create a job, then it's even better then for what? For us to be able to have that individual exposure to the world. Compounding and making my point. So the government is complacent, and their actions in respect to their policies could be found wanting and looked upon as corruption and corrupt policies. That does not give to the Bahamian people, but takes from us. So, see you later, mommy. Okay. So, in closing, we just got to do what we got to do.